Hi, I'm Esty Kaplan, independent scholar and freelance academic copy editor based in Santa Barbara, California.
And I'm Sarah Wilma-Watson, a visiting assistant professor of English at Haverford College in just outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania.
And we are the creators of Books of Duchesses, a born digital humanities project mapping women and their books in the Middle Ages.
And this is part of a series of videos on how to contribute to Books of Duchesses as a guest editor. We hope you enjoy it.
In this video, we're going to learn how to add a non-extant manuscript or print book, that is to say, a manuscript or print book that we know did exist, but perhaps no longer exists and cannot be identified with any existing manuscript or copy of an early print book, into Books of Duchesses. So we're going to go to Books, of course. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to type in NE for non-extant, because we want to see what the first available number is. So if we just hit enter to search that, we see that there are quite a number of non-extant books, going up to 9 pages. So if we click on page 9, well, we see NE99 and NEP for non-extant print books, but we've maybe gone a little too far. So let's go back 1 page, and we can see, if we continue to scroll down, that NE882 is the most recent used number, which means that NE883 is going to be available. And so that's what we're going to use today. So first, we're going to click Add a Book, and before we forget that number, NE883. So the book that we are entering today is a presumed dedicatory copy of a work. This work is Pérenée Dupin's Chronique du Comte Rouge, Amédée VII de Savoie. And we noticed that the about content, we put in the title in its original language. The translation will be available on the text page. Now, I've gone ahead and already made sure that this text exists. So here it is, and we hit enter. So now the text is associated with this book. Date created. Here, this is dependent on the date of the text, which was created between 1476 and 1477, according to the people who have done the research on it. Because it is a non-extant book, and we do not have any idea if it might be identified with an extant book, we're going to leave catalog entry and digital version empty. Now, as to form and format, unfortunately, in this case, we don't have any indication. Sometimes, if you're working especially from an inventory, for instance, or from an archival document, you'll be able to fill in this box with information like parchment or paper. Sometimes you'll have information about the layout of the text in 1 column, in 2 columns. Sometimes you'll have information that it is bien illuminé, bien historié, well illuminated, so you would include illuminations in this box. And sometimes you also get things like covered in green leather, just as a for instance. So especially with non-extant books, this is all very, very helpful information, and this should go into the format box. But as I said, we don't have any of that today, so we will not be putting that in here. We also have no information about who the scribe of this presumed dedicatory copy might have been. We don't know if it was illuminated. Before we go any further, we're going to save and continue editing. Now that we've saved, we're going to enter an ownership information history event, So in order to do that, you have to click on the green plus button, and this must be done for each ownership event, which is to say, if there are individual owners or different time periods, each one needs a separate creation. So we're going to click here, we're going to say book owned NE 883, enter to confirm. Date owned, we know that it has to post date the text's creation, which in this case is 1476 to 77. So we'll say post hyphen 1476, and then the end date is probably, well, possibly the death of the woman owner. So let's check and see what her death date is. So we'll go into the owner, and as you can see, I have multiple tabs open because I find it easier to do that than to try and save and navigate back and forth. So we'll search Yolande, and we are talking about Yolande of Valois. So now that we've confirmed Yolande's death date, we're going to pull up that ownership information event, and we're going to say 1478. And if we're not sure about that, we can always follow it with a question mark to indicate that it is a guess. Book owner, Yolande of Valois, Duchess of Savoy, enter to confirm. And then ownership type, we have a lot of possibilities here. We have many possibilities for confirmed, including patron, portrait, inventory, inscription, archival mention, coat of arms, will, and other, which tends to be used for secondary sources, scholarly articles that we're referencing that don't cite where they got their information from in a way that we can track it down and verify right away. But this is not confirmed. This is possible. So we're going to continue scrolling down. Inscription, patron portrait, inventory, archival mention, coat of arms, other, instance of borrowing. And we get all the way down here to possible dedication. And this is because we know the text was written for her. And so our options are dedication or patron. And in this particular case, because the author was working for her, and because I cannot currently access the text to see if this is in fact, if there is in fact a mention of her in the dedication, I'm simply going to choose possible patron. Now, I can always come back in and edit this at a later date if I find out that my information is incorrect. So if you're not entirely sure, don't be too worried about it, but you do need to include at least one ownership type for every ownership instance. So we'll save that. We'll click back over to the Change Book tab here. And the bibliography, the source that I'm using for my information today is Côté. So I start typing in Côté. I click on that to confirm. I leave this unreviewed because I'm going to come back in later and verify this information. And you as a guest editor will also leave that as unreviewed so that myself or Dr. Watson can come back in and verify that later. So now we will save. And I've actually clicked on save and continue editing because there's one more point I want to bring up. Book location for non-extant manuscripts is generally very difficult to pin down unless you are working from an inventory or an archival mention. If either of those is the case and you have a specific day, month, and year that a book is in a place, go ahead and put that location in by clicking on the plus sign. If you are not sure, if your information is very vague, it is better not to put that in. If you really want to make sure that we have that information available to us, you can put it in the user suggestion comments box. So now we'll save. And actually our last step, now that we have created NE 883, which we can see down here, we have in fact created it. Our last step is to attach it to its female owners. So we'll go back through to the list of all of the possible models. We'll go into owners. And because I've already got her open over here, I'm actually just going to do it over here. So Yolande de Valois, Duchess of Savoy. And I'm going to scroll down and add in, I'm going to type in 883. And you see two possibilities come up. The one that I want for Yolande is NE 883. So I will click. And then I will save. And now that book has been attached to that female owner. We hope you have enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to email us at booksofduchesses@gmail.com. Please make sure to check out the next video in this series and have a great day.